ladies, this is my other video that I'm making for my new subscribers and people that want to hear or share my story. My videos are public, so you can send them to people that you feel it would help. If you want to send them my way. I also recommend that you guys post questions or things that you want me to address. I'm an open book, so if you see any of these videos and you want to ask a question, go for it. This video is about my history and about my losses. So if you don't want to hear detail about loss and miscarriage and my children dying, then this isn't the video for you. I would recommend just my videos that say trying to conceive on them. TTC, that's just my normal regular updates. This is definitely very grief and history focused. It started off, obviously, at 19 years old, I was diagnosed. I'm 25. At 19 years old, I was diagnosed with PCOS. I was in college, and I was living with my parents, and one day I woke up, I didn't feel well. I called into work, and I knew things were pretty bad. I was vomiting blood, and a cyst ruptured. I didn't know it, but a cyst ruptured on my ovary, and I was rushed to the hospital where they discovered I had cysts on my ovaries. There was a cyst on the ovary that hadn't ruptured that was larger than a golf ball. So they gave me medicine to absorb it, but it was clear that the other ovary had received a little bit of trauma because, and they could see that a cyst had ruptured, and so I was actually told and devastated that day that I probably wouldn't have children, or it wouldn't come easy for me. And so at 19, I was like, oh, okay, 19, all right, fine. I'm not married. It's okay. I guess we'll deal with it when we get there. 2 years later, I married the love of my life, and in 2008, we wanted to try right away when we got married, and I kind of had that in the back of my mind going, well, I know I have PCOS, I know it's probably going to be difficult. So the first year and a half, we tried all natural, nothing, and I had one period. I had one cycle in a year and a half, and you can't get pregnant that way. So I went into my doctor. I saw a specialist. They gave me Provera and Clomid. Provera to stimulate my period, Clomid to get me started, and I'm like, I don't have high expectations for this. I really don't. The first month it took, I got pregnant. I was excited. I was over the moon. I told everybody. I posted all over Facebook before I even had my ultrasound. Why people do that, I don't know. Unless it's their, trying to conceive page. Okay, but, my extended family in Germany freaking knew. I mean, I wasn't even shy of 5 weeks that everybody knew. Biggest mistake ever. Especially a first pregnancy. Like, no, you don't know how it's gonna go. So I told everybody sight unseen, and we go in and they check my blood numbers and they're like, it's 100. I mean, that's pretty low. It should be quite a bit higher than that where you're at. Are you having any pain? Yeah, but I figure pain in pregnancy is normal. And we pretty much found heart tones in the right tube. And I was like, son of a bitch. I was devastated, of course. My whole life was over. And, I mean, it is a baby, and it was a loss, and we were really upset. But when you hear the rest of my story, you will see how naive even yourself can be at the beginning of a journey, and you think everything is going to be easy, and it's amazing. So I had the surgery, the baby was removed, but my tube was saved. They did find the reason for the pregnancy to be that way. They actually found scar tissue blocking the bottom half, and it just kept the baby from going all the way down into my uterus. So they cleaned all that out. They checked the left tube. The left tube was fine. And they said, wait 3 months and try again. So we waited 3 months. We tried again. The second cycle took, and we got our daughter. Got our daughter in the sense of we conceived her. We went through the first trimester. The first trimester was holy living hell. I lost 18 pounds in 8 weeks. They believe I had a slight HG, hyper nausea. And the 14th week I woke up and I was great and I had energy, and it was like, this is what people enjoy about being pregnant. And my pregnancy was good. My pregnancy was great. Had no issues. At 20 weeks exactly, we went in for our 3D ultrasound and they told us we were having a girl, and we named her Mariah Pearl. 3 hours later at my home, her feet came out of my vagina. Sight, feel, unseen. I had no pain, I had no contractions, I had no nothing. I went to the bathroom and a water balloon. Her sac was protruding and I could feel her feet kicking me through the sac. And I panicked. I mean, I screamed. We got the EMT coming. I walked onto the thing. That's how little pain I was in. I straddled on over to the belt. I laid up on the belt. They put me in the ER. They took me to the hospital. They put me, head down. And the doctor comes in and goes, "Well, your baby's a trooper. All of its water is intact. Let's just keep you in this position for 4 weeks until, you're 25, 26 weeks, and we'll reassess you, and things will be okay." And I had bleeding. I mean, I had spotting. For 6 days, I was in Trendelenburg with my head down, my feet in the air. I had a catheter in. I was not allowed to get up to go potty. I was not allowed to get up to go poop. I had to be fed with my head down. Indigestion. I had to have medicine to knock me out because after the 3rd day and my hair was caked to my head and I had headaches from the blood rushing to my head. I mean, it was horrible. But I would do anything and was going to do anything for her. And the 6th day, I woke up and I said, today is different. Today, I feel something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but a mom knows when something's wrong. They did an ultrasound and they found that because I was in Trendelenburg, they didn't realize that I had a slow leak, and the only water that was left was in a halo around her head. And her feet were already in my canal, and that was what I felt. So about an hour and a half later, she was born. She was born alive. She lived about 20 minutes. That 20 minutes, it was weird. I was a rock. I mean, I cried a little bit, but there was something that just told me to make this 20 minutes the best 20 minutes you got. Love her, hold her. I doted over that child. And she was amazing. It was the worst thing, though, to look into that NICU guy's eyes when I pushed her out and him look at me and say, "We're not helping you. We're not helping her. We can't." Because as a mom, that's your first instinct. It's to help your child and to just not let them gasp for air and let them suffer. But she did really well. She she didn't like me checking on her. Every time I would pull the blanket back to look at her, "What are you doing?" So I waited until she passed away to, count the toes, count the fingers, look at her. She was absolutely perfect. She was 11 inches and about 9 ounces. She was very tall, very skinny. She was beautiful. And there was no diagnosis as to what caused her to come. They believe it was incompetent cervix all the way because I didn't have any pain or contraction. She just fell out. So they said the only way to do this is to try again. So we tried again. And in 2011, about 3 or 4 months after she passed away, we did Clomid again and we found out we were pregnant. And it was a boy. And the same exact thing happened. At about 15, 16 weeks, while on vacation, visiting my family, my water broke on the toilet. And I started to hemorrhage, to clot. It was much different. it was a placental abruption versus an incompetent cervix. They believe that the incompetent cervix caused the placenta to tear away. Because, believe it or not, he was much bigger than she was at her gestation, in the sense of, even though he was 16 weeks, he was measuring ahead, and he was a chunky one, and they think that the weight was equivalent to what my cervix could hold. So, the placenta tore away. So, he was still in there, but I was probably going to die if something didn't happen soon. So, they induced me, gave me contraction medicine. I gave birth to him. He died pretty immediately after we cut the cord, and I continued to pass blood. The placenta would not come out, so I had to have a D&C. My husband was deployed during this time. He was there for Mariah, but he was deployed during the loss of our son. He never got to see our son or hold our son. And that for him was the biggest thing. He doesn't even like to talk about it. He can talk about Mariah a lot more than he can talk about Aaron Jr. And I just think for him, it was the fact he wasn't there. And he blames himself, which is not his fault. So we pretty much had this determination that we probably knew it was my cervix, but it could have been a uterine abnormality too. So we had, while Aaron was still deployed, I decided to take that time to have every single test that money could buy because the insurance was going to cover it. So I had $10,000 in testing done. I had my uterus tested. I had an HSG tested. They expanded my uterus to see if it like changed when it stretched out. They took 40 different vials of blood to test for every single clotting disorder, every single malformation, and I came back absolutely 100% perfect. Was not the diagnosis I wanted. I wanted there to be like some little clotting disorder, some little thing that caused it so that I could just take an injection and move on. And that was not the case. My uterus came back perfect, and that's what I assumed would have some polyps and malformations, and no, it was perfect. It was fine. So the cervix is pretty much our bastard. It just gets to about 16 weeks to 20 weeks, depending on what their weight is, and they fall out, or the placenta tears away and they come out. So on October 8th, I see a specialist. I have already pretty much determined that I am going the most extreme route you can possibly go with cerclages. I'm not piddly-assing around with it. I know too many beautiful ladies that have my issue that get the regular vaginal cerclage. They go up into your vagina, sew it shut, then they unstitch it when it's 37 weeks and you deliver vaginally, and oftentimes it only offers them 3 to 4 more weeks. The stitch breaks through, the weight, they fall, you know, instead of 19 weeks, now we have a 23-weeker or a 24-weeker. So the cerclage that I have chosen goes through my abdomen, goes to the cervix at the highest point, and it's permanent. It's there forever. I will never be able to vaginally deliver a child. It will always be C-section because there is nothing ever coming out of my cervix. And there's a sense of relief for me that if something happens, my water breaks, I can take my time, I can take a shower. Should crap hit the fan, I don't have to rush to the hospital because I'm afraid my baby's falling out, because that is the last thing that will happen with one of those. It's my baby falling out. So most people get them done before pregnancy. One of the top leading guys in the nation that is in Phoenix that is doing it for me, Dr. Richard Demir, believes in doing them at 12 to 14 weeks pregnant. Because it allows for the swelling, it allows for him to properly put the stitch. Half the time when they put the stitch in before pregnancy, they oftentimes either do it too high or too tight, and it can cause complications because they don't know how your uterus is going to swell. They don't know how your organs are going to move around for that. So I'm nervous because, God forbid, I don't want to have another loss of, 14 weeks in a day, the day before we, have the surgery done. But I trust him, and I trust that it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, then we're SOL. and we go through our surrogacy.